Kazuya gets dumped by his girlfriend after just a month of dating. That night, he finds she also blocked him on social media, and as he gets frustrated, he happens to see Rent a Girlfriend app and decides to try it. The next day, he meets Chizuru, his rental girlfriend, and is surprised she is actually beautiful. They go on his proposed date, visiting the aquarium, and she is fascinated by the fish. At the end of their date, she holds his hand, which makes him feel special. That night, he read reviews from other people and learns that Chizuru is doing that with everyone, and he gets angry and leaves bad reviews stating that she doesn't even know common fish names. He decides to go out again with her to give her a piece of his mind. The following day, he meets again with Chizuru, but as he finds her too cute, he can't say anything. The whole day, Kazuya acts kind of cold, saying they are total strangers. They go again at the aquarium, where Chizuru starts talking about fish. Kazuya realizes she prepared for the date and is reminded of his ex-girlfriend, making him yell at Chizuru. She drags him somewhere private where she asks him if he is an idiot as he requested rental girlfriend and agreed with the user agreement. Chizuru complains that he left her 1-star review, which she had never received before, which brought down her rating. She even brought a book about fish to prepare for this date, but guesses she will get another 1-star. Kazuya's phone then rings, informing him that his grandma collapsed. He leaves towards the hospital and Chizuru decides to follow as he still has time left with her. At the hospital, his grandmother Nagomi states that she is fine. She sees a girl with Kazuya and Harumi. Kazuya's mother explains she brought her in as she was with Kazuya, but she and his father really doubt she is his girlfriend. Feeling pressured and mocked, Kazuya states that Chizuru is his girlfriend as she introduces herself as such. Nagomi gets excited and wants to leave the hospital to make a party for the occasion, but Kazuya's parents stop her. His parents then decide to return to the shop. Nagomi asks Chizuru if she had sex with Kazuya, and Chizuru explains that since Kazuya is the oldest son in their family, they figured they will need Nagomi's permission first. Hearing that Nagomi grants them the permission and decides to go call her friends to introduce them to Kazuya's girlfriend. Kazuya explains that Nagomi had been hospitalized a few times and had made friends with other regular patients. Hearing that, Chizuru gets shocked and states that her grandmother is also patient in the hospital, but she doesn't know about her job. They manage to hide in the next room, under the sheets in the bed, and manage to fool Nagomi, but they left. Before they manage to leave the room, Chizuru's grandmother Sayuri sees them. Not wanting to trouble Chizuru, Kazuya decides to reveal that he doesn't have a girlfriend, but Chizuru continues the act. Nagomi and Sayuri get happy that their grandchildren are together and look forward for when they will marry each other. Later, Chizuru tells Kazuya that they need to tell them they broke up. Kazuya explains how important his grandmother is to him and that he wants to introduce her to a real girlfriend before she passes away. He comments he used to have one, but she refused to meet her and then dumped him. Kazuya later leaves 5-star review on Chizuru and decides to not call her anymore. He decides to continue with his campus life. However, on the next day, he and Chizuru meet unexpectedly at school, but they both pretend to not know each other. Later, Chizuru drives Kazuya to a room, telling him to not tell anyone about her job and to never rent her again. However, to their surprise, they live door by door in the same apartment complex. Nagomi calls Kazuya, informing him that she will be visiting him as she wants Chizuru to also come. Kazuya begs Chizuru to pretend to be his girlfriend as his grandmother is coming, but she refuses. Nagomi arrives and they start waiting for Chizuru. Kazuya goes out to call her, and while pretending to talk with her on the phone, he goes to the next door and begs her again, but Chizuru still refuses. Kazuya decides to tell the truth, however, Nagomi had already figured he got dumped. Nagomi tells him that at some point she started to believe he will never get a girl, but Chizuru showed her a beautiful dream, so she can never hate her. Chizuru overheard their conversation from the window and decides to act as his girlfriend. She comes apologizing for being late, but stating she wanted to prepare food. Nagomi gets happy to see her. Later, as she leaves, she tells Kazuya next Wednesday when he comes to visit her to bring Chizuru with him. Kazuya manages to convince Chizuru to be his girlfriend for 1 hour each Wednesday, but she set rules that he never talks to her at college or contact her outside the app. The next day, Kazuya runs into his ex-mommy and is reminded of how beautiful she is. Later, Chizuru calls him and they go to the hospital. After their visit, Kazuya is seen by Yoshiaki and Shun, who think that Chizuru wants to sign Kazuya into some sect and take all of his money, but end up stating that she is his girlfriend. They can't believe he is with such a beautiful woman, but accept it as they hear they haven't had sex yet. They invite him to come drinking with them, and Sasano and Kazuya end up accepting. At the place, Kazuya is surprised to see Mami there, and Yoshiaki apologizes as he didn't knew she would be there. Kazuya feels awkward and wants to leave, but he can't leave Chizuru alone. After he returns from the toilet, he sees Mami talking with Chizuru. Mami then starts explaining how troublesome Kazuya's sex drive is, as once they held hands and kissed, he always wanted they do that. how he couldn't stand up from where they were sitting after she wore a miniskirt. Seeing Kazuya not saying anything, Chizuru stands up for him, telling her to not badmouth it, and that it's not okay to talk about private things for their ex. As they argue, Kazuya states that's just the way he is and Chizuru decides to leave. After the party, Kazuya talks to himself. Mami ends up following Kazuya and thanks him for standing up for her and states that she failed as a girlfriend. She comments she didn't know Kazuya had such a manly side and invites him to her place. Mami tells Kazuya that she lied about having a boyfriend. She receives a message from her brother and realizes he is home with his friends, so she tells Kazuya that they can't go there. Kazuya sees this as opportunity as she invited him and decides to invite her at his place. Mami gets surprised and Kazuya panics, starting to explain it's nothing creepy and that she is just too sexy. Mami then starts patting his head and Kazuya starts to feel like trash for jumping on conclusions and not standing for Chizuru. Mami starts badmouthing Chizuru, thinking she has some loose screws as she was quiet all night and then had such an outburst. Kazuya states that Chizuru isn't like that, and while he still likes Mami, he can't let her badmouth her. Kazuya goes to Chizuru's apartment wanting to apologize, but then sees her coming home. He apologizes for being so pathetic. Chizuru states she is fine with them continuing like this, and that makes Kazuya happy. Kazuya's group decides to go to the beach, and Kazuya is surprised that Mami wanted him to come too and isn't mad at him. They tell him to invite Chizuru too, but he explains it was too sudden, so he couldn't get her to come. Secretly, Mami is angry that Kazuya is dating someone in less than a month after they broke up and decides to make Chizuru and Kazuya break up. She goes and apologizes to Kazuya for her behavior the other day and comments how many good memories they had for the month they were together. They even decided that their kid will be called Maya, but now Maya will never be born. Kazuya decides to tell her the truth about Chizuru, but then sees other people from their college and that Chizuru and her friends also decided to post-exam break at the beach. As she is in her Ichino's personality, no one realizes she is Chizuru Mizuhara. As the other group leaves, Kazuya decides to not reveal it as he will be laughing stock for his friends. He ends up being the one that needs to go buy things from the store, and as he goes, he visits the bathroom to clear his mind. Chizuru attempts to enter, and seeing her, he drags her in. As she confirms that they are just client and rental girlfriend, he explains that he may have a chance to get back with Mami and didn't want Chizuru to offend. That annoys Chizuru, who starts yelling at him, telling him he is just a client, but then they heard Mami outside wondering if that's Kazuya. He goes out, trying to say that he is alone, but Mami realizes he lies. As she attempts to open, Chizuru comes out pretending to Mizuhara. Kazuya's friends also come and seeing Chizuru, Kazuya explains that she is from his region and got some free time and decided to visit him at the beach. Mami apologizes to Chizuru for the other day, but secretly she gets even more frustrated with her being there. The group return at the beach and Kazuya goes into the sea, while Chizuru stays on the beach. Mami calls Kazuya behind some rocks, explaining that she lost her bracelet and asks him to help her search it. However, she ends up kissing him. After kissing Kazuya, Mami apologizes, stating she couldn't control herself. She tells him to act normal in front of others, and they return to the group. However, Kazuya can't stop thinking about it. Nagomi calls him to inform him that she is getting discharged and will be able to see Chizuru anytime she wants. The group starts asking about where Chizuru lives, and unable to tell, Kazuya reveals that they talked about breaking up. Yoshiaki gets angry and punches Kazuya, guessing Chizuru dumped him for his behavior towards Mami, and they get into a fight. Chizuru and Kazuya leave, and Chizuru tells him that was manly, and that they don't know the truth, thus they acted like that. Chizuru heads back to the store to take her clothes, but as she sees her friends outside, she can't go in and change. Yoshiaki then shows up and wishes to speak with her. Kazuya sees them and thinks that Yoshiaki may try to confess to her or something and hides to eavesdrop on them. Yoshiaki tells Chizuru that he knows Kazuya since they were children and tells her a story of how optimistic he is and how he didn't give up on a flower at school. In the end, Yoshiaki gives Chizuru 2 ferry tickets and asks Chizuru to give Kazuya another chance. A dog then reveals Kazuya and they realize he was listening. Yoshiaki then leaves and Chizuru states that she can't decline after hearing Yoshiaki, so she agrees they return with the ferry and then tell them that they talked and decided to break up. On the ferry, Chizuru starts to not feel well, but as they speak, Kazuya decides to later ask Mami out. He tells Chizuru that he won't be renting her and promises to not talk to her at the college. Mami then calls him on the phone and he walks outside to talk. She wants to meet up with Kazuya and she tells him that she is waiting for him in the hotel pool. Kazuya agrees to meet her, but explains he will need at least 15 minutes to come. Meanwhile, Chizuru is feeling quite unwell and goes outside too. As the ferry shakes, she ends up falling overboard in the water. Kazuya hears a girl with Chizuru's description fell in the water, and he drops his phone and immediately jumps in the water. Kazuya manages to reach Chizuru underwater. She later wakes up on the beach and remembers that she fell. As she turns, she sees unconscious Kazuya, remembering that he came for her. Chizuru starts giving CPR and in the end gives him mouth-to-mouth, and Kazuya finally awakens. The Coast Guard finds them and gives them a scolding. His friends who heard of the incident also give him a scolding, and he ends up spending the night at the local hospital and misses his meeting with Mommy. After being discharged, Kazuya goes home and decides to masturbate on Mommy's pictures, but he can't stop thinking of Chizuru. That makes him realize he had already fallen for her. Nagomi decides to go to a hot spring resort to celebrate her discharge and takes Kazuya with her. At the resort, she reveals that Sayuri, Chizuru's grandma, is with her and forces Kazuya to go in a different room as she wants to share a room with Sayuri. Kazuya heads into his room only to find Chizuru being there. She is surprised Kazuya is there, but quickly realizes this was plan that Nagomi made. Chizuru then leads Kazuya to Nagomi and Sayuri, but they refuse to change rooms, stating they ordered food already and it would be too much trouble to change now. As Chizuru states they still haven't done it with Kazuya, Nagomi and Sayuri are a bit surprised, but tell them they have the chance to do it now. Returning to her room, Chizuru continues to enjoy her time there and they drink and eat with Kazuya. Before going to sleep, Kazuya prepares to sleep in the bathroom, but Chizuru tells him it's okay to stay. He starts imagining things for which she hits him as she starts to feel his lust. At night, he asks her if he can continue renting her and not to tell their grandma as they broke up. Kazuya feels that he is growing while she's by his side and Chizuru agrees. Kazuya and Chizuru announce in front of Kazuya's friends that they will continue being a couple. Later they meet Shun, who tells Kazuya that he has a girlfriend too and wants them to go on a double date. Kazuya tries to prevent it, but Shun had made his mind already. Going home, Kazuya bumps into a girl and sees her panties, for which she calls him pervert. On the day of the double date, Shun takes them to a free climbing place and introduces his girlfriend Ruka. Kazuya recognizes her as the girl he bumped into and can't believe Shun got such a beautiful girl. Kazuya and Ruka are pretty bad at climbing, however Chizuru is quite good. After a while, Ruka calls Chizuru and asks her if she is rental girlfriend. Chizuru denies it and returns to Kazuya telling him about it. He starts to panic that if Shun learns, the whole school will hear it too. When he goes to the bathroom, Chizuru tells Ruka that she's mistaken and they are really dating with Kazuya. Ruka then asks them to kiss and Chizuru, having no options, kisses Kazuya. However, he covers their faces with her phone and places her right hand between their lips. Ruka is not convinced as she couldn't see it. Shun returns and wonders what they were talking about. Kazuya quickly comes up with something and says that Chizuru had to visit her grandma and she leaves. He decides to stay with Shun and Ruka to make sure she doesn't tell him. They see Ruka off and Kazuya is kind of surprised how short Shun's date was. As Ruka can tell Shun anytime he decides to go after her, but she waits for him behind the corner and states that this must confirm that they were not really dating. Ruka confronts Kazuya, but he still tries to deny it. She tries to leave, but in his attempt to stop her, he touches her improperly and she hits him with her bag. He keeps following her, asking her to not reveal that Chizuru is rental girlfriend, but Ruka guesses he rented her for swallow reasons. Kazuya then explains everything and again asks her to promise to not tell. Ruka gets frustrated, saying that she was sure that people who went for rental girlfriends were shallow and superficial, and runs away. She was about to bump into an elderly woman, but noticed her and manages to avoid her. However, she loses her balance and is about to fall on the stairs, but Kazuya manages to grab her and fall with her, softening the impacts. Ruka then reveals she's a rental girlfriend too. The next day, Kazuya waits for Shun when Ruka shows up in his college. She tells him she came to see him and seeing Shun coming, they run and hide. Ruka tells Kazuya to hug her to confirm something, but as Shun comes, they hide under a desk. As they hug under it, she checks her phone and it makes a noise. Shun ends up hearing it and finds them. Ruka then thanks him for renting her, which shocks Shun, who then runs. As he couldn't find Shun, Kazuya goes home and talks with Chizuru over the door. He explains the situation, but then is shocked to see Ruka showing up. She explains that Shun told her he lives here when they passed by. Seeing that Chizuru is his neighbor, Ruka gets frustrated, wondering how far their relationship stretches. She promises to not tell anyone about Chizuru being a rental if he goes out with her. She explained that she fell for him, and if he treats rental girlfriend that good and even risk his life on the ferry, then he will treat his actual girlfriend even better. Chizuru and Kazuya speak about the situation, and Kazuya states that he doesn't like Ruka, but do find her cute, but he can't go out with her due to his friend Shun. Eventually, he decides to go find Shun and tell him that Chizuru is also rental, and that way they can save the situation and he keeps it a secret too. As he attempts to leave, Ruka sees him and chases him, explaining that she was looking for someone like him for a long time and that she purposely broke her relationship with Shun in order to be with Kazuya. Kazuya still explains he can't do it because of his friend, which makes Ruka cry that he doesn't even want to give her a chance. Chizuru tells Kazuya to go out with Ruka as she looks like she really likes him, and just leaving her on her own can lead to lots of problems. Kazuya starts spending time with Ruka and completely stops renting Chizuru. However, he finds it quite hard to keep up with Ruka, as she wants them to talk on the phone at least 2 times a day, to like her tweets, to always read her message, and there is the fear she may expose his fake relationship with Chizuru. As Christmas is coming, Ruka visits Kazuya at the college, but he asks her to not come there as Shun could see them, and she agrees, and they make plans for Saturday to see a movie. Kazuya starts to miss Chizuru, but finds out she is booked for Christmas. On the next day, he sees her all dressed up and meeting a boy. At first, he thinks it's a client, but then figures out he can actually be her boyfriend. As he gets worried that may be true, he starts following them and finds the boy named being Umi. He ends up watching a movie with them, eating lunch, and eventually hears that they will eat at his place. He decides to stop following her and realizes he lost her. He goes to a restroom, but to his surprise, Umi enters too. Umi's phone rings and he talks about Chizuru, stating that he will take her measurements later and that she has an alluring voice. Kazuya takes it very suspicious, thinking that Umi plans on tricking her into something. Convinced he is her boyfriend but has bad intentions, Kazuya decides to keep following them. In front of a Christmas tree, he sees Umi is about to kiss her and interrupts them. However, Chizuru explains that he was just fixing her earring and that they aren't a couple. She is surprised he knows about the dinner at his place, but Umi guesses he means the script. Having no choice, Chizuru explains that she is an actress and that Umi is another actor from her school. Kazuya then wonders about the phone call in the restroom, and Umi explains he was trying to recommend Chizuru to a director he knows. After Umi leaves, Kazuya reveals that he has been following them since they met and he decided to stop, but thinking that Umi may be a scumbag, he just couldn't let it go. As he starts to think that Chizuru is indeed from a different world than him, she gives him a present. It's a phone case since his phone is broken due to her. Kazuya starts crying as this is the first time a girl had given him something for Christmas. He goes to read the reviews and comments for Chizuru and sees other guys also got presents. The next day, he complains at Chizuru, stating that other guys may think something more, but she explains she is a girlfriend and it's normal to give presents, even more it's the agency's policy. She asks him if he likes her, but he declines, so she states they keep their relationship business only. Returning, Ruka intercepts them and is annoyed he went out with Chizuru and forces Kazuya to go on a date with her. At their date, Kazuya can't stop thinking of Chizuru, and Ruka decides to blindfold him and takes him to a love hotel. There he sees Ruka takes off her socks and panics and attempts to run, but Ruka stops him, asking him to tell her everything about his relationship with Chizuru. Kazuya again explains everything about his grandma, and Ruka tells him he can't keep up with the lie forever and can introduce her as his real girlfriend so he won't need Chizuru anymore. Kazuya states it won't be easy to replace Chizuru as his grandma really likes her, but Ruka is ready to have some fun. He runs into the bathroom, but as he leaves, Ruka had left. At New Year, Kazuya takes Chizuru to meet her grandma and parents. As they arrive to everyone's surprise, Ruka shows up, stating that she will be joining them. Chizuru and Kazuya panic but introduce her as a friend. Ruka quickly starts to flatter Nagomi. When they reach the restaurant, Nagomi wonders from where they know each other, and Kazuya explains Ruka is Chizuru's friend, but Ruka states he is his girlfriend. Nagomi tells everyone to enter, but wants to talk with Kazuya. Nagomi starts beating Kazuya for cheating on Chizuru. She tells him either to cut ties with them or to break up with Ruka. Kazuya explains that Ruka is a pathological liar, but usually is a nice girl and Chizuru is too nice to cut her. Ruka tells Chizuru that they can't keep this lie forever and are just complicating things themselves. She guesses that Chizuru keeps this act as she wants to be his girlfriend, but if she doesn't want it, she must let her take the role as she is serious about Kazuya. During the dinner, Ruka feeds Kazuya, however, there is no reaction from Nagomi or his parents. She realizes something is strange and calls him elsewhere to talk. Nagomi and Kazuya's parents tell Chizuru that she is too nice as she manages to deal with Ruka. Elsewhere, Kazuya reveals that he told his grandma that Ruka is a pathological liar and she wants to fix it, but he stops her as they will think he is two-timing them. Ruka thinks that is fine as she is the real girlfriend and she will pretend to be a friend around his family, but Kazuya just sneaks out. After dinner, Nagomi and Ruka end up being alone. Ruka plans on telling her everything and tries to convince herself to do it. However, Nagomi states that she is glad she met Ruka as she is friend of Chizuru and she has tons of questions about her, what she likes, dislikes. She acts the same while she isn't present. Ruka realizes that Nagomi doesn't want a girlfriend-in-law, but Chizuru herself. Nagomi and the rest then continue towards the shrine. Chizuru tells Kazuya that everything is okay and he goes and thanks Ruka for not telling his grandmother and apologizes for telling her she's a liar. Ruka tells him that she felt isn't the right time to tell her, but she isn't giving up on him. Ruka starts working at the same place as Kazuya as it's Chizuru free place. As he thinks his luck can't get worse, Yoshiaki and other of his friends arrive at his workplace and mock him. Yoshiaki tells him about Shun acting weird and writing gloomy tweets. Kazuya figures it's due to Ruka and asks her to apologize, but she thinks that may only complicate things and she haven't worked as rental since they started dating. Kazuya starts thinking of how he can help his friend Shun. He comes up with an idea and goes to Chizuru and asks her for a favor. The next day, he arranges a meeting with Shun. However, instead of Kazuya, Chizuru arrives and introduces herself as Shun's rental girlfriend. Shun can't believe it and checks online, confirming that she is indeed rental. They go in the amusement part and he refuses to enter, but seeing that Chizuru would still go alone, he decides to stay with her. Spending the whole day with her, Shun is reminded of what he misses and expresses his desire to really have a girlfriend. In the evening, he intends to pay Chizuru, but she states it's been paid already. He then sees Kazuya watching them and Chizuru leaves them talk for a bit. Hearing the whole story, Shun starts laughing at Kazuya, but feels relieved. Chizuru then returns and Kazuya leaves. The next day, Kazuya receives a note from Chizuru asking him to meet her at the balcony that evening. He starts imagining of what it may be, but as he goes on the balcony, Chizuru asks him to rent a friend of her, Sumi, as she recently started as rental girlfriend, but is quite shy and clients complain and Kazuya agrees. Chizuru then asks him about Mami and Kazuya explains they haven't talked since the beach and is no longer sure he still loves her. The next day, Kazuya waits for Sumi and sees a girl hiding behind a column. He figures that's her and she confirms. As they go for a coffee, he realizes how shy and introvert she is as she doesn't even say anything. He takes her to bowling, but since it's her first time, she slips and falls. Kazuya asks her why she wants to be a rental girlfriend and using gestures, she explained that she wants to change. Kazuya goes to get some drinks, but as he returns, he sees 3 guys hitting on Sumi. He doesn't want to get into a fight, but not wanting to disappoint Chizuru, he goes in and takes Sumi away. They go on different places and spend good time together. As Kazuya hits his nose, he goes to wash himself, and as he returns, he's surprised to see Mami with Sumi. Kazuya starts to panic and introduces Sumi, but is surprised she keeps the act as his girlfriend as that will only make his situation worse. Mami asks Sumi if she can give them a few minutes to talk and Kazuya agrees. Mami comments that Kazuya have really changed and is now with another cute girl. Before leaving, she tells Kazuya that she won't tell Chizuru about it. Later, as their date ends, Kazuya tells Sumi that she can take it nice and slow, and although she doesn't talk much, it was obvious she was really trying to make this a fun date, so he believes a nice girl like her can be a rental girlfriend. Sumi is reminded of Chizuru's word and calls Kazuya's name, telling him they will see again and then leaves. Sumi later calls Chizuru, informing her how her date was and that he saved her from some punks. At home, Memi can't stop thinking of Kazuya. She is really surprised that a cute girl like Sumi is interested in him. She couldn't find Sumi on social media, but searching her name, she finds out she is rental girlfriend. Chizuru calls Kazuya on the balcony and thanks him for taking out Sumi as she really enjoyed her time. Chizuru then explains she considers leaving her rental girlfriend job as the director Umi spoke to is interested in her and will give her a role. Kazuya is sad to hear that, but thanks her for everything she had done for him. The next day, Chizuru has a date with a customer named Maya. However, the customer is revealed to be Mami. Kazuya agrees to go a date with Ruka. Later at their job, just as he is about to ask her to be his girlfriend, he spots Mami and Chizuru heading into one of the rooms. Mami attempts to pay Chizuru, but she refuses. When Chizuru wonders why Mami is doing this, she simply ignores her. Meanwhile, Kazuya finds out that Mami knows the true nature of his and Chizuru's relationship. Once they leave, he fakes an illness so he can follow them. When he finds them, Kazuya overhears Chizuru telling a skeptical Mami that he is her boyfriend. She then asks Mami if she has ever thought that he was truly the love of her life. However, Mami gives a vague answer. At night, Kazuya thanks Chizuru for speaking up for him. When she apologizes to him for not getting him a girlfriend, he confesses that he wants her. When questioned, he reluctantly says that he meant as a rental girlfriend. Inside her apartment, Chizuru becomes flustered. The next morning, everyone is out doing their own thing. The end. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for more amazing recaps.